Ambassador Chingla, how has India changed since you got a new prime minister?
Well, I would say that the change is very, very perceptible. You've been to Bombay recently,
Yes.
and you've seen the sort of buoyancy that is there, and the mood, I think, is one of optimism.
Yes.
For the first time, we have a government that has been elected with an overwhelming majority,
Right.
which means after 30 years, we have a government which enjoys an absolute majority in parliament, which is, I think, the mandate that the people have given Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his government, which is really for development, good governance, and stability. And they felt that coalition governments had their limitations. Governments could not take decisions that they really wanted to take in the national interest, and that you needed to vote in someone who could enjoy a mandate which would deliver the aspirations of the people of India, particularly the younger people. Because we have to remember that India is a country of young people.
Right.
Over 60% of our population is below 35 years. 150 million, which is almost 1/4 of the entire electorate in India, are people who are voting for the first time ever, between 18 and 23 years of age. And these are the people who determine what the country is going to be, and they're the future of the country.
What attracted the young people to Mr. Modi?
I think the important thing for the young people was they wanted someone who had a proven competence of being able to deliver on inclusive growth, on stability, on development. In other words, meeting the aspirations of the younger people. Economic aspirations, the aspirations for stability, the aspirations for India to take its rightful place in the international center stage. All of this is a representation or manifestation of the success that the BJP enjoyed in the last elections.
The huge loss suffered by the Congress party, run by the Gandhi family, indicates the end of the Gandhi dynasty in Indian politics?
Well, you know, in politics there is no end.
Only new beginning.
There are only new beginnings. You know, like the phoenix, you can rise from the ashes. But the fact of the matter is that you know the Congress has been in government for 10 years now.
Yes.
And I think people did feel the need for a change, and a change that would be for the better. India.
What a big loss.
Yes, I think even Congress may not have expected that they would face such a debacle
Yes.
in the elections.
Yes.
But it also reflects the trend in India that I think people are tired of having governments that are ineffective in terms of the mandate that they've been given. People of India realize that you need to empower a government that can develop, that can let's say deliver on the expectations and aspirations. And I think unfortunately because of various reasons,
Yes.
The sense was that the delivery was not there. And now, of course, because of the fact that you have a government who's headed by a person with a very proven track record of competence, of service delivery, of economic growth in the state of Gujarat, where he was chief minister for the last 13 or 14 years, there is already a sense of optimism, which is important because, you know, if you talk about investor confidence,
Yes.
you talk about an environment conducive for business and growth, that sense of optimism is very, very essential. And as you can see, after the elections, the rupee has strengthened, the stock market has shot up,
Yes.
and I think generally the assessment globally from your normal economic growth companies that predict economic growth, whether it's Moody's, Bloomberg, it's the various international organizations that forecast growth and economic development, all been unanimous that the fundamentals of the Indian economy and the potentials for growth are enormous after the election of the new government.
Some critics said the Congress party lost touch with the people. You agree with that?
It's a little difficult to go into the reasons for anyone's success or otherwise. But if you see the results, I think it's apparent that there was a lack of contact with the feelings and sentiments of the vast majority of the people. which I have to say, on the contrary, has been fully understood and exploited by the current leadership, by the government of the day led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. They understood what the younger people wanted, what the vast majority of Indian people wanted, and they also used the various tools at their disposal to reach out and to be able to both listen to and to communicate to the people of the country. Which means that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been quite innovative in his use of social media, for example.
Yes.
And he's been on record saying that this is the media that enables me to reach out to people and to understand what they want. If you see the use of 3D hologram displays for the first time, he had over 3,000 rallies in which he was not physically present.
Wow.
But there were 3D hologram displays of his in which he addressed the people. The message was focused. If you have the 3D hologram display in a rural hamlet, he's addressing people in that hamlet, but he cannot be everywhere himself.
So it's not really TV, it's a hologram.
It's a hologram. It's a 3D hologram, and that is a representation of the person himself.
Yes.
It is like him addressing you.
Yes.
His speech is focused on the people who are listening, because it's not a generic speech. But at the same time, it enables him to be omnipresent all over. And at a time of election campaign, he's able to be, let's say, to reach out to people in different parts of the country, which you couldn't normally do. So it's absolutely brilliant the way that has been used. Twitter has been used. He has 33 million followers on Twitter, I understand.
Yes.
There are 200 million people who are on Facebook in India. There are 1 billion cell phone users. So this is the way that you can reach out to people. You can reach directly to people. And this has been an innovative way of fighting elections in India.
Yeah.
And certainly it has, I think, borne good results. And I don't mean it is just the technology that is used. It's actually a way to understand the pulse of the people, which is really to answer your question, essentially, that how do you understand, how do you reach out to the people?
That's right. But was corruption main issue that toppled the previous government?
Corruption is obviously an important issue in India because, again, what people want is good governance. People want transparency. People want to see the leadership perform their roles objectively. And I think this is again a very, very important electoral platform of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his government, that they would provide for a government that is both transparent and objective. So one of the key areas that he is focusing on is not only transparency but to remove corruption from the body politic of India.
That is a very difficult assignment.
It's a difficult task, but I think they are going about it with a sense of diligence. You've seen in the news recently there have been some top people who have been associated with government, public sector firms who've been apprehended for corruption. And I think that is going to be the norm, whether from top to the bottom. If you are indulging in corruption, the message that is going down is that this will not be tolerated in the government. And I think this is really in keeping with the sentiments of the people. Again, particularly the younger people who have much less tolerance and appetite for this sort of misgovernance. If you are elected, it is your responsibility to ensure that you run a government that is objective, that provides for good governance, that is transparent, and you bring in whatever norms that are needed. But it is for you to resolve that issue, which is why, again, the mandate issue comes up. Because if you don't have that sort of mandate, then you can't fulfill the expectations and aspirations of your people.
It's not clear what Prime Minister Modi's attitude or policy is towards ASEAN so far.
Well, I think it is clear, because if you see the manifesto of the BJP, they talk about strong ties with the ASEAN. And they've not mentioned too many other regions, but the ASEAN is a region that has been specifically mentioned. You have to recall that it was in the previous BJP government that India established summit partnership status with ASEAN. That means that we have taken this big leap forward from being a dialogue partner to being a summit partner of ASEAN during the government of the previous BJP administration. And having been back to Delhi after the new government was formed and meeting some of the leadership, including our Minister for External Affairs, I can tell you that there is very strong priority on India's Look East policy on strengthening and developing ties with our Southeast Asian neighbors, and in particular Thailand.
Any clear plans so far to strengthen relations with ASEAN?
Well, we are working on a wide range of issues. Free trade agreement is one of them.
Yes.
But we are also looking at enhanced cooperation in all fields. That is something that is work in progress. But I think an important meeting is scheduled to take place in terms of the ASEAN foreign ministers meeting in Naypyidaw later this month.
Right, before the summit.
Before the summit, our external affairs minister will be there. So that will prepare the ground for our engagement with the ASEAN in a much more major way. So I think this is something that the government attaches importance to, and certainly something that will be more and more evident as we reach the summit levels.
And Thai-Indian relations in particular, what is your main concern?
Well,
vision?
I would say that this is a relationship that offers very few concerns. It is a relationship which offers opportunities.
Yes.
And one that is extremely multifaceted, as would befit ties between two neighboring countries. The important, I would say the advantage we enjoy as I'm talking about India and Thailand, is that we have centuries of cooperation in historical terms, civilizational terms, spiritual terms, which very few countries enjoy. Now, if you look at that background and look at today's contemporary relations, I think there is a lot that we are doing and can do together. And certainly we look at Thailand as one of our very, very important interlocutors and partners within the ASEAN, a country that has been a friend of ours over time, and a country that we will continue to work with closely in the development of our ties in our neighborhood and particularly within Southeast Asia. So I think we attach a lot of importance to the relationship. And certainly, once matters settle down politically, new government in India also would take a little bit of time to find its feet and to extend its global engagement, which it is already doing, but extend it further. And in Thailand also, you have a constitutional process, a transition process. And as it goes forward, we should be able to find our synergies and take that relationship very, very important step forward.
What has been the Indian government's reaction to the coup in Thailand?
Well, we have...
Officially, unofficially.
I can tell you both officially and unofficially, certainly. As far, after the military coup d'etat, we did make a statement indicating that as a close and friendly neighbor, that we expressed the hope that Thailand would resolve its political issues as soon as possible, and restore normalcy in keeping with the spirit of democracy, rule of law, and will of the people of the country. So this is something that we did convey, but we also did, I think, understand that a relationship between two neighboring countries is one which will require constant communication. You cannot have a situation where we are not engaged, or we are not communicating with each other as governments, as people. And so we have tried to take a line that is more understanding of your internal situations and your efforts to resolve your situations. In other words, while we do, as a democracy, hope that your transition process would be as smooth and as urgently resolved as possible, we also believe that we need to keep in touch with your leadership, with the institutions that represent your country. And we cannot allow our relationship to go into free fall for the period in which you have this political transition.
So your position is different from the one from the West, United States and Europe, which have been quite critical and have downgraded relationship at a certain level, especially the military cooperation. Indian-Thai relations have remained the same? Nothing has been affected?
Well, I don't want to comment on relationships between Thailand and its other partners. All I can say is that as you come closer in geographical terms to any other country, there are other realities that have to be taken into account. Now, we share a long common maritime border with Thailand.
Yes.
We are also geographically in close proximity to Thailand.
Yes.
And we therefore, let us say, have a different reality to keep in mind
Right.
than many other countries.
I see.
And I think we would have to compare our position more to countries within the ASEAN, your own neighbors
Yes,
within the ASEAN, and see whether that is consistent or not. But as far as we are concerned, we do recognize that there is the inherent fundamentals in Thailand. Economic fundamentals are based on the democratic practices that you have enjoyed over a period of time, and we have no doubt that you will continue to enjoy them. And I think from what we can understand, what you're going through today is a transition process, but would ultimately also lead to a restoration of full democracy. And we are working towards a situation where we realize the full gamut of our cooperation in keeping in sync with your own, let's say, expectations of a relationship with our country.
You have met the leadership of the National Council for Peace and Order.
I have had the privilege to pay a courtesy call on General Prayut. You have to recall that I had requested a courtesy call from the time that I took up my post as ambassador.
Yes.
And I would say he was kind enough to offer me a meeting, and certainly we were able to go through the entire gamut of cooperation activities that India and Thailand enjoy.
Yes.
Because today his status is more than just the commander-in-chief of the Royal Thai Army.
Right.
He's also the head of the NCPO. Similarly, I've met General Thanasak, who's the chief of defense forces, and who paid a visit to India recently. So I think these visits have really reinforces the communications that exist between our two countries, and the understanding that while you have a transition period, we cannot afford to allow the relationship to also, let's say, not move forward. That we have a relationship that has done very well over the last many years, and that relationship should at least continue a minimum level of momentum, and should not allow itself to be affected in any significant manner by the developments in either of our countries.
Yes. Talking about geopolitics, how do you view the American policies of so-called pivot towards Asia? How do you see the relationship, the superpower relationship in Southeast Asia between the United States on the one hand and China on the other? Where does India fit into this balance of power?
Again, I don't want to comment on the policies of individual states. All I can say is that we enjoy extremely close relations with the United States. We recently had a strategic dialogue with the US Secretary of State. Kerry was in India.
Yes.
He had the dialogue with our External Affairs Minister, Mrs. Sushma Swaraj. He also called on our Prime Minister.
Yes.
We also have a very, very good relationship with China. Our Prime Minister, when he went for the BRICS summit to Brazil, had a separate bilateral meeting with President
part of BRICS, right?
Xi
India
Jinping.
and China.
Exactly. And he invited the President to visit India, which the President said he would visit this year itself. He also invited our Prime Minister to visit China, and he accepted the invitation. So we have, at the highest levels, very, very good cooperation with both these countries. Our Prime Minister is also visiting the United States in September.
Yes.
And he will have a summit-level meeting with President Obama. So what is important is that our relationship with our partners, including the United States and China, very much important policy objectives for us to maintain that relationship, to ensure that there is the growth trajectory that we would enjoy with both these countries economically. Cooperation is there on issues of global concern and mutual interest, and that we continue to discuss with them on a wide range of issues that befit countries that have a certain responsibility on the international stage.
So India does not play power politics in the region?
I think our expectation is that we would play a role that is as constructive and as positive as possible. That with the ASEAN region, with Southeast Asia, we have had a historical relationship.
Yes.
We have a very important contemporary relationship.
Yes.
And we would continue to do our best to ensure that whatever we work on is constructive and is as positively inclined as possible. In other words, our role would be more in keeping with our traditional foreign policy objectives, which is to maintain close and friendly ties with all our neighbors and strategic partners.
But you know that there's tension in the South China Sea between China and some ASEAN countries. And if war breaks out in South China Sea, India cannot stay silent. But what is India's role in preventing a possible outbreak of war in South China Sea?
Well, of course, war breaking out is an extreme eventuality.
Right.
The South China Sea certainly is important because a lot of trade flows through that part of the world. India as a maritime nation depends a lot on international trade, which uses shipping lanes. We have maintained that we would like to see as much cooperation between the countries concerned, so that they can arrive at a mutually acceptable solution to the situation in keeping with international law and practices. And we would also like the shipping lanes to be kept open.
Sure.
And that normal economic activity should not be dislocated in the let's say resolution of the issues that are involved. Again, as a dialogue partner, as a summit partner of the ASEAN, as a country that has close relations with all the countries involved, including Japan,
Sure.
I would say that we would only wish for as speedy a conclusion of this issue as possible, in keeping with, as I said, the principles of international law and international cooperation.
But India would not initiate any kind of action proposal, more or less a bystander rather than
we
an
have to
active.
understand that it is not an area in which we have an immediate locus standi. At the end of the day, we are not a littoral country to the South China Seas, and at the same time, we are always happy to assist in facilitating any process that can lead to greater harmony and greater cooperation between our friends. So, in other words, while we are not directly parties to this issue, we are always happy to facilitate any arrangement that is leading to the right
if
side.
requested.
If the situation requires it, the parties would like it, etc. But that is hypothetical. I mean, let me clarify that I'm not suggesting that we are offering any role. I mean,
No, but India is a big country, and I think there are expectations that India should play a more active role in balancing the power composition in the area. But India seems to be not very interested in playing that active role.
You see, look at it this way. Since the government of Prime Minister Modi has been elected,
Yes.
they've taken some very, very important foreign policy initiatives.
Yes.
In his inauguration itself, he invited all the heads of state and government of the SAARC countries, the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, to attend the inaugural ceremony. This was unprecedented. And in response to that, we had the heads of state and government of almost all SAARC countries, including Pakistan, attend that function. That was an important foreign policy initiative, and I think that was appreciated, and that has enabled us to move forward with a relationship with our neighbors.
Yes.
That is absolutely critical.
Right.
The Prime Minister just paid a very, very important visit to another neighbor, friendly neighbor of ours, Nepal.
Yes.
After 17 years, this is the first time that a Prime Minister of India has paid a bilateral visit to Nepal.
Yes.
And he has announced a $1 billion line of credit as assistance to Nepal for infrastructure projects that it would have preferences for. He has agreed to look and resolve any of the issues that might impede greater progress in relations between our two countries, and certainly offered the entire gamut of economic cooperation, including use of hydroelectric power, which India can help
Yes.
Nepal produce, and we can be the end user for. So there's enormous potentials in Nepal, which we are saying with the friendly people in Nepal we can resolve. He went to the BRICS summit. We agreed on the new development bank, which each of the BRICS countries would be an equal partner and contributor to. India would have the presidency of the bank for the first 5 years. So we have made an important contribution in setting up what would be an infrastructure bank for meeting the aspirations of the developing countries. So important source of development financing for many countries all over the world. So initiatives have been taken, and I think we will continue to take those initiatives which we feel are not only in our best national interests, but also in the interests of regional and international peace and security.
We would like to see Prime Minister Modi in ASEAN, in person.
I have no doubt that the ASEAN summit will have our Prime Minister. And we're talking about the ASEAN India Summit, which is an annual feature.
Yes.
We'd certainly have our Prime Minister represented, and it is a matter of time before the focus on ASEAN would become much more stronger.
So, under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi, what can we expect from India in terms of closer relationship with ASEAN, in brief?
Well, I think we would have to certainly look at how we can take that relationship. Now, I have to clarify that this is something that I am only talking at levels of let's say, looking at what we can do, the potentials.
Yes.
But policy decisions have to be taken and are yet to be
Sure.
let's say, articulated.
Yes.
But there is the possibility of assessing the current relations with ASEAN and to working with the ASEAN leadership to see how we can take it to the next level.
Yes.
The Prime Minister talked about a new paradigm. He talked about partnership for prosperity when it comes to our neighbors.
Yes.
Now, ASEAN is in our extended neighborhood. We already enjoy common maritime and land boundaries with some ASEAN countries, including Thailand.
Yes.
How we can take that relationship to the next level is something that the leadership has to sit down and work out.
Yes.
But there are many ideas, and most important of which is trade and economic aspects. There is the issues of common security related aspects, which is basically ensuring that the shipping lanes are open, ensuring that we tackle together issues relating to piracy, to let's say maritime surveillance, to even issues like marine pollution. There are a whole gamut of issues that we can deal with.
Yes.
Cultural cooperation, people-to-people contacts. If you look at Thailand, 1 million Indian tourists visit Thailand every year. There are about 170 flights between Indian cities and Thailand every week.
Yes.
But we are also talking about road connectivity. India, Thailand and Myanmar are working on a trilateral highway that will provide us seamless connectivity from India to Southeast Asia. That means from Moreh on the Indian border through Myanmar into Mae Sot in Thailand.
Okay.
So by 2016, that should be complete. So we should, in principle, be able to move goods and people, even by the land route. Thailand is talking about developing the Dawei port. That will be an important, let's say, linkage between our ports in peninsular India, including Chennai, and this part of the Bay of Bengal. We are both members of the Bay of Bengal initiative, which is BIMSTEC. Again, a very, very important partnership where the Bay of Bengal becomes increasingly important in terms of cooperation that our countries can sit down and work together on. So I think we will have to look at what are the main potentials and where we can let's say call upon the resources of our respective countries and the time of our leadership to take that into a new paradigm. And I think, again, from our side, the Prime Minister has already announced that he is looking at a new paradigm in foreign policy objectives and relations with our neighbors. So this would be in keeping with those broad objectives.
Well, IT is one of India's strong points. Perhaps, as far as bilateral relations is concerned, Thailand could benefit from Bangalore, from India's overall high level of sophistication in technology. You see how we can learn from you, we can benefit from what you have learned.
You see, one of the things that we are working on is a free trade agreement with Thailand. And that free trade agreement is what we call ASEAN Plus.
Yes.
So that means we already are concluding a free trade agreement with ASEAN, but with Thailand we can take it even further. And we are talking about cooperation in the services sector. And if we are able to conclude this agreement in both goods and services,
Yes.
it will give us opportunities, new opportunities in the ICT sector, which were hitherto not available to us. So I think you're right. I think in the ICT sector, if both countries are able to conclude the negotiations that are ongoing, then we would be able to see enormous potentials of cooperation in the information technology area. Information technology really means not just the technology, but also human resource potential. You know,
Right.
you exchange
Right.
people, you pool your resources, and I think there is a lot of scope there. But at the same time, we have offered Thailand the possibility of investing in infrastructure development in India. That is a big priority for the new government. We intend to focus on the development of high-speed rail corridors, economic corridors which involve both road and rail,
Yes.
development of ports. Thailand has a very developed infrastructure. You have companies that specialize in infrastructure development. So we've invited Thai companies to come and invest in the infrastructure development in India. And in fact, our commercial wing in the embassy has already circulated projects on which we've floated tenders, public tenders,
I see.
in which we've invited companies to quote based on a PPP model, public-private
Yes.
partnership model, as transparent a model as possible, in which
This is for Thai investors into India.
we are encouraging Thai investors. Obviously, investments are open from any part of the world. But since we have a mandate for Thailand, we see that you have not just an excellent infrastructure throughout your country, but you also have companies that are specialized in infrastructure development. We have certainly reached out to your infrastructure development companies and said, do
I
invest
see.
in India. I also understand that Thailand is the partner country for Vibrant Gujarat, which is a very, very important economic event in that part of the country in 2015. And that lots of initiatives are being taken in that respect. So we would like to look at every possible area of economic cooperation with Thailand, including tourism promotion, because
Yes.
we believe that while 1 million Indians come to Thailand, and the potential is much more depending on the incentives that are there, but we can also attract Thai tourists to go to India beyond the Buddhist circuit, which is again a very, very important area of
Yes.
tourism. But there are so many other areas in India which offer
Especially
the
with a weak rupee.
potentials. With rupee has strengthened a bit, but
A
I
bit,
think
but still,
I think the Thai
Weaker
baht
than
is,
before, right? Used to be what? About almost 1-to-1? But now, what's the latest exchange rate? Rupee baht?
well, it's approximately 1 to 2.
1 to 2, yes.
1 to 2. That means 1 baht, Thai baht is equivalent to 2 rupees.
Yes,
But the rupee, if you will recall, was about 68 to a dollar.
yes.
It is now less than 60. So the
Okay.
rupee has strengthened as well. But then
Right.
the Thai baht has also strengthened.
Right.
So both our currencies have been fairly strong.
So you should get more tourists from Thailand.
We certainly would like to see more tourism from Thailand, and I think the potentials are.
How many
there.
times visit India officially
We issue about roughly 100,000 visas every year.
every year?
And,
Not enough.
Not enough. I think the potentials are much more. And if you look at the opportunities, there are
Yes.
170 flights a week, and
Yes.
the fares are extremely competitive.
Yes.
There's a lot of potential for Thai tourists to go to places like Jammu and Kashmir,
Yes.
to go to Goa, to go to
Yes.
Kerala,
Yes.
to go to northeastern India,
Right.
Sikkim.
Right.
There are lots of places that Thai tourists could look at, which would give them a change from what you have, because you have
That's
excellent
right.
tourism potentials here.
Oh, yes.
But diversity is what it really calls for, and I think India offers that diversity, which is promising for tourists that would go from Thailand.